The government has decided to scrap the tender process for the $223 million Australian network in favour of awarding it permanently to the ABC. Sky News is furious at the decision and is demanding compensation for the money it's spent putting together a bid for the service. Political correspondent Jennett has more from Canberra. So, Greg, how did the government make this decision?
Well, Ros, this decision has certainly come quickly. Only a month ago, the Communications Minister, Stephen Conroy, announced that the tender process was being scrapped, that investigations were being launched into leaks, and that in the meantime, until about August next year, the ABC could continue to hold and run the contract to provide this service. Then Cabinet met last night and an announcement came out of that very soon after. Now, in that announcement, Senator Conroy says it's now clear and in the national interest that we make a decision about the future of the service rather than allowing uncertainty to continue. And he says the government has determined that Australia's international broadcasting service should be delivered by the national broadcaster. Well, that's precisely the position that the ABC's Managing Director, Mark Scott, had put all along, and he sounded like a relieved man when reflecting on the decision this morning.
We don't outsource our embassies, we don't outsource our defence forces, we shouldn't outsource our public diplomacy. So we'd made that argument and we made that argument under the previous government as well. A decision was made to put it to tender. As we've seen, that's been a long and a difficult process, but now it's been resolved.
So, Greg, what's Sky News saying about the whole process?
Well, it is outraged. It feels all along that it had emerged as the number one pick into previous versions of the tender process, and it has indicated that it may be seeking some compensation because of this. Now, the opposition isn't criticising the result, but is definitely unhappy with the process. Malcolm Turnbull, the communications spokesman, has led the charge, backed up this morning by fellow frontbencher Greg Hunt, who indicated that some form of inquiry may be needed.
I think, unfortunately, the process has been a sham. I hope that there has been no political payback for perceived political positions in some of the News Limited newspapers. And obviously we'll have to look at the process. I think that there ought to be a Senate inquiry at the very least into the process.
What's been Kevin Rudd's involvement in this?
Well, very minimal involvement, Ros, in the final stages of this saga. In fact, Mr Rudd was overseas and absent from the all-important cabinet meeting last night that made the decision. Previously, the process had been hauled away from him and largely delivered to Senator Conroy to have carriage of through the final process. So nothing heard from Mr Rudd on his reaction to the decision, but no involvement in terms of his presence at the all-important cabinet meeting last night.
Greg, thank you.
Thanks, Ros.